Welcome to the night of inspiration. I am so glad that you guys can make it here with us tonight. It's a little different this year, that's for sure. And I expect many technical difficulties. We are trying our best. I am not tech savvy and I'm really trying to work with it. So I might stumble along the way, and I just ask for a lot of grace in that. Thanks for being here. We've got a great lineup tonight. I'm very excited about it. And I want us to go ahead and get started. I've written this speech for tonight about 15 million times, and another disaster strikes and the sky turns orange and I have to start it over. So this is a very different year. I don't know if it's better that I can't see you or if it's worse, it just feels weird. But we're not in the same room. During the last 6 months, it's been really rough. I've been wavering between kicking and screaming about the new normal, with my hands clawing against the doorway, to sinking into my couch, in my pajamas, cooking time with my girls, and making new plans for one life for what is. I do enjoy the forced time out, and there's little silver linings along the way. So many things are changing. People are moving, jobs are ending, safety feels very elusive, and we are definitely living in an upside down world. Yet I have faith in people's kindness and compassion, and that's a steady constant. There are 3 things that I want to talk to you guys about, and then I'm off the hook for the rest of the evening. But there are 3 basic needs that humans have. And the first that I want to talk about tonight is connection. And it's something we're desperately needing. We're social animals, and isolation does really strange things to us. It creates lethargy. It makes us unmotivated, irritable. I've never seen so many Karens, short fuses, and bad behavior, even my own. It screws up our sleep. It cultivates despair. And as a consequence, feelings come like pendulums swinging back and forth. Alcohol intake goes through the roof, and the suicide rate increases. And it's increased by 2,000% since COVID. Last year, when I was in the room with you guys, I said 1/3 of people report having some lifetime occurrence of mental health issues. That number now, according to experts, is at 50%. When we're kept from each other through fire or fear or illness or loss, we don't do so well. In the field of psychology, we talk about the 4 Ds. And every time when you have somebody walk into your office as a therapist with the 4 Ds, you know they're ready for change. Death, divorce, disaster, and diagnosis is what we call them. And during the last few months, many have experienced each one of these. There is a collective grief that's just reverberating. There's deep sorrow for relatives lost, but not laid to rest properly. There's devastating financial cuts, joblessness, and I personally have clients who have lost jobs, lost family members, been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and evacuated from their homes. And how do you even begin to hold all of that grief? Our therapists here at One Life are our biggest asset, and they are our biggest connection to the community. The therapists have given their hearts and souls to their clients in the most desperate of circumstances, and the therapists here have not stopped since day one. Our therapists can't solve the problems that are going on right now, but they can carry them with you for a time. Being a therapist is a hard job. It's painful and it can be emotionally exhausting. We dream about your problems. We drive around in our car and think about your problems. And then long after you get better, we hold you in our hearts for years to come. People don't call us when things are going good. They call us when things are falling apart. The therapist-client connection heals people. Our therapists see people for no fee and have been steadfast to serving their commitments during COVID. Supporters like you made it possible for anyone who calls us to get the help that they need. In the past year, we've been inundated with referrals. The need for Spanish-speaking clinicians is at an all-time high, and we have grown as a little baby organization 4.5 years ago from 35 therapists last year to 70 this year. It's been a hard year. People can't afford therapy and they desperately need it, and the disparity between those who can afford and those who can't has grown tremendously. You have helped us do so much, and I'm hoping to count on you again tonight. Connections heal people, and that's what we do at One Life with your support. Second, we long for purpose. We flail without meaning, we collapse without productivity. During shelter in place, hopelessness prevailed. There was confusion and desperation, and we watched in horror as polls in New York and France and Spain just rose higher and higher. We were waiting, we were looking for toilet paper, we were itchy and scratchy, and now we just try to settle into the new normal, and it's hard. And at One Life, we definitely, as an organization, have found purpose by creating opportunity for people to serve others. A huge component of our work in the last 6 months has been food distribution. I need you to know that One Life needed food distribution just as much as the community needed food. Less than a mile away from San Carlos, we have pockets of poverty, like in North Oaks, where the poverty rate is 30%. We have programs where we reach immigrants that are recently here in the last 3 years in Redwood City and in San Mateo that were unable to get unemployment and had literally no recourses. We started as just a small food drive, and on, I think it was March 13th, that all changed. I'll never forget that day. We planned to do a small 50-bag food drive, and we just went into shelter in place, and there was a feeling of scarcity that everybody felt at the time. And our really small food distribution turned into a line of car in the hundreds. We had to close the doors that day, and it was painful. And we sat in the office for 2 hours while people knocked in fear and desperation for food. We went home that night and we were in shock, and we were resolved to do more. By Sunday night, Jennifer Bautista, and with the help of Crystal, devised a plan to serve our families. She's created a system to register, to distribute, to patrol traffic, to manage diapers, and to coordinate over 50 volunteers each week. Sandy fell out of the sky as our volunteer angel. And we've got an army of volunteers here at One Life and in San Carlos who have been so faithful, showing up week after week to help in the hot sun. The community stepped in. Jen and Greg Holmes came out of nowhere and have provided the program for food distribution that has sustained us to this day. It was a hard time. I've never felt supported as an organization. I've never felt that much love. The city of San Carlos stepped in, donors stepped in. But I have to tell you that the volunteers were relentless in their purpose. They're a cast of characters, and if you ever come on a Friday, you get to see. We've got judges and venture capitalists. We've got homeless helpers. We've got our friends from the North Fair Oaks. And we work hand in hand to distribute to over 300 families. They're high in the pandemic each week. 50 bags of food are also delivered to their doorsteps as well. We went from handling 500 food a month to handling over 15,000 pounds of food a week. That's the size of an elephant, and it truly takes an army to distribute it. We've gotten over our head many times during the pandemic. We started a clothing drive that turned into the Mount Everest of clothing, but the devotion of our summer interns, we were able to make beauty from a big pile of clothes. I remember one day Cameron Miller looked at me, and it's the day that we called him in and we said, we have too much clothes. We don't know what to do. Can people bring tarps? That night we had about 40 or 50 volunteers and tons of tarps, and we laid them out. And Cameron looked at me and he said, you guys are impressive. You seem to just keep taking things on, even if you're not prepared or it might not work. You're relentless in your giving. And the executive director in me was upset. I'm like, gosh, I want to make things great. And I was reminded of a quote by Voltaire, and it says, the best is the enemy of the good. One Life is trying to do good, and we are committed to our community. We will forgo the good at times. And that day, 564 families came home with hope in their hearts and a big bag full of clothes. So our goal is to help people find their purpose through therapy, through volunteering, and it's backbreaking work to hand out food. But it fills your soul, and it creates community, and it connects us with everyone. Third and last is humans need to have community. When I was preparing for this talk, I asked my board president, Matt, I said, what do I make sure I address? And he told me, just follow the Gettysburg Address, brief yet powerful. Well, I don't know if it's brief, and I don't know if it's powerful, but I do know that I love Abraham Lincoln. And I love him because he is a warrior of trauma. Abraham Lincoln lost his mom when he was 9 years old. He lost his sister when she was 20 years old, which was like his mother. He lost his fiancée when he was in his 20s. 3 of his 4 children died before they turned 18. He lost many elections. He ultimately lost his life, and he was steward of the greatest conflict to ever afflict our nation. So I read the Gettysburg Address, and about halfway through the 272-word tribute, Lincoln wrote this: "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what we did here." Let me read that again. "The world will little note or long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what we did here." Well, I might not remember my speech tonight. I do hope I never forget what one life does for the community. The 15,000 low-fee sessions, the 350 families fed during the pandemic, the music for our forgotten seniors in the dementia units, the clothing for over 560 people, or that one little immigrant child who finally was able to unload their detention center story for one of our therapists. In many ways, it feels like our nation is gripped in an emotional civil war. We are so divided in a time where we need community more than ever. We need to come together and unify, not just speak, but do. Even if it's not the best, just make it good. Everyone has the ability to do something. Send an email of gratitude, donate a can of food, help a neighbor in need. Everyone can. So I ask you, what can you do? If you believe in supporting local nonprofits, if you believe in bridging the gap of disproportionate access to mental health, and if you believe in a scrappy community coming together in the scariest time, just trying to do good, then please bid tonight, contribute generously, volunteer with us, supporting One Life in any way that you can. You need connection, purpose, and community, and that will never change, and that is something that One Life is good at. Thank you for coming here tonight. I really appreciate it. I have some thank yous to give, and I want to start out by letting you guys know that there's a chat box. If you haven't found it, try to find it on your screen. I want you to identify yourself. We've got a tribe of people that help this organization. So please identify yourself when I name the grouping that you're in. I want to thank our sponsors. So if you're a sponsor, please identify yourself in the chat box. Thank you. We've got an amazing auction dream team, so I want to thank them. And if you identify yourself in the chat box, that's great. Thank you to our funders, Dignity Health. I hope Marie's here. Sequoia Healthcare District, Peninsula Healthcare District. Thank you to our therapists. There's a lot of them now. And if you're here, say therapist. Thank you to our summer interns. These young people will change lives. We had Izzy and Jake and Mia and Piper and Emily. We've got a great team of supervisors, Karen and Jamie, Wendy and Pia, that nurture our therapists. Thank you to our awesome board. Thank you to the dedication of every volunteer that we have with us. Especially thanks to those bi-weekly warriors that come every other Friday. I want to thank my mom and my biological dad, all my siblings, new and old, for being here tonight. Thank you for my wonderful husband and my family. Identify yourself if you want to. Thank you, most notably for these next 3 people. One is Crystal. She came and took on work like you never believed. She had welcomed every car in for food distribution. Let me tell you, each week there's sometimes upwards of 300, and she's that warm handoff. And she also works with our immigration program. Last thank you that I want to give, and I'm going to try to do this without crying, is Jennifer and Michelle. Jennifer is our program director, and Michelle is our COO. We're a small team. We're the executive team. But I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your love. I want to thank you for your passion. But most of all, I want to thank you for your relentless effort to make lives better for those we serve. These are our true heroes. So please open that little envelope I gave to you, and I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart.